start. Greetings, my fellow crafters and creatives. Thank you so much for joining me here on my channel. My name is Bobbie Olan and I am a knitter and multi-crafty maker coming to you from Victoria, Australia. I am so out of practice, much more out of practice than I thought. Basically, I mean, words, Bob, explain well. I'm a bit nervous about this. This is episode 48 or 49 or something like that, but I haven't done a proper vlog style episode like this in actually pretty much a year and a half, which is a lot longer than what I had thought it was, probably because I did do Vlogmas at the end of last year, so Vlogmas for 2025. But I did do that differently. It was a type of Vlogmas that I hadn't done before, and I was pretty much just working on a little project every day, and I was sharing that with you. I haven't had a video where I have shared what's been going on in my life, all the projects I've been working on, that kind of thing, since November 2024. I had a look this morning before I started filming. Ramble, nerves, keep talking. I don't know what I'm saying. I need to get on with it. I did sort of want to explain, first of all, actually, for those of you who are returning, thank you so much for sticking with me. I have been so inconsistent and I am so glad that you have chosen to come back and give me another chance. For anyone who is new, I'm a bit of a rambler. I mean, I think a lot of podcasters are, actually. And usually I spend a bit more time planning and structuring sort of like what I'm going to say. Like I make a list of all of the projects that I want to talk about, and I sort of try to put them in an order if possible, so that, you know, my different segments and the different projects can sort of somehow like flow into one another and it makes some kind of sequential sense, which isn't always possible. Anyway, this time I haven't really done that. I've sort of just gathered like a whole bunch of stuff here to talk to you guys about, which is maybe a bad idea because I swear in my memory, the starts of my videos haven't been this messy, but I'm going to try to do a little less editing and share all of my my verbal hiccups and loss of words and what have you. Whatever happens. So last year I didn't do any of these type of videos at all because I wanted to try something different, which was to create dedicated project videos. And I did a couple of those. One of those was for this jumper here, actually, which is called Ginger, which I did for the Colors of Fall Knit Along 2025. And yeah, so I did a couple of those videos last year, but I totally am not good at keeping track of, you know, what I have filmed and just remembering to film different things. If you have paid attention to my channel at all, I did put out another one of those project videos in the last year, and if you watched it, I feel like I should apologize a bit because it's not the best video, and I considered it not putting out there, but then part of me was just like, oh, just do it, just get it out. But I think when I initially started filming it, I had planned to do it as a no talking video. And then when I put all of my footage together, I had just this one section where I had filmed like a big lengthy explanation about not having enough of a particular color of yarn. And that's the only bit of talking in the video. Maybe I had planned to like film the intro and the outro at the very end, but because that particular project, the Growth Rings shawl, which I kind of tried to knit as a schlanket. Because that project took me the whole year from January right up to the very, very, very end of December last year, I think. And then I didn't get around to editing it straight away. By the time I got around to editing it, I think I was just sort of like done with it, and I didn't want to film anything more for it. So I feel like I kind of let you down a little bit if you were interested in any of my project videos. Anyway, all of that to say that last year I didn't do any vlogs because I was trying to do dedicated project videos, but I don't think I was really successful at doing that. So I've been meaning to come back to doing these vlogs for a while now. I've missed chatting to you guys and just sharing in this kind of way where it feels a bit more conversational, and I hope you get that sense too, and I hope that, you know, you reach out and chat back at me, because that would be really lovely. I am a really shy person, and sometimes, well, not some, I know that I can take a long time to respond sometimes, and sometimes that is a bit because of just like my shyness and nervousness and like not knowing how to respond. I mean, it's like, it's not that hard. Anyway, I overthink things. It's just what I do. I overthink everything. So I think I put too much thought, and then I try too hard, and then anyway, here we are. I'm here doing another one. It's been so long since I've done these that in a way I kind of just want to start over. I can't possibly go through like every single project I have knit since November 2024. Some of it I have shared with you. So like this jumper. So really there's no need to. And why do you need to know everything that's been going on in the last 18 months? I do have some projects here that I have finished, that I started and finished within those 18 months. Anyway, I just need to get to it. I did want to explain a little bit of sort of where I'm at in my life at the moment. So if you watched my Vlogmas last year, I think I talked about this, but I'm not 100% sure. If you are coming back, then you'll notice that I'm in a completely new setting than I usually am. And that is because towards the end of last year, we got notice to vacate from the rental property that we were in, and we had to like pack everything up, find a new place to live, which was this place here. But the way that we did that is we sort of like, well, we found this place, we organized this new rental that we're in. We packed up all of our stuff, put it in my partner's parents' garage, and then we went away on holiday, and then we came back, and then we moved into this new place. And it's in a completely different area to where we were living before. It's in a really lovely area. We're down now on the Mornington Peninsula, if you know anything about areas in Victoria, and we used to be more inner city, not super inner city, but a lot more inner city than we are now. And we've just really been loving sort of the pace of everything down here. It's a lot more sort of like, at least the area that we're in, it's a lot more like quiet and spacious and open. You know, there's a beach not far away. Neither of us are beach people, but we have gone for a couple of walks along the beach when we don't feel like walking around the streets. And it's just been really nice. But because of all of that, having to pack, going on holiday, having to move, like it just felt like really hectic for a few months there. So then when we did move into this place and settle in, it just took me like quite a while, I feel like, to get back into sort of like the normal headspace of getting back to doing my normal things. And then, you know, once I settled back into that, it has taken an extra bit of time to sort of like psych myself up for doing these videos again. And honestly, probably part of the reason that I'm doing this now, I'm filming this on Mother's Day 2026, if you are watching this in the future, and I'm hoping to gift one of the things that I have made, that I have finished recently. I'm hoping to gift it soon. So I wanted to make sure and film a video and share it with you because I think it's such a lovely finished object. Was there anything else that I wanted to share? I don't think so. We're like 10 minutes in already and I haven't shown any knitting to you. So I guess we should probably start with some finished objects. So in the past, I have called this section where I share what I have been working on, I call it Handy Dandy. So I have some handy dandy FOs for you, a few COFOs, as the lovely ladies on the Frivolous and Frugal podcast like to call them. COFOs being projects that you have cast on and finished since the last time you have vlogged. I'm doing this in no particular order. I can't remember what I finished first out of all of these, but let us start with, let's do this. Let's start with this here. So this is a project that I have been planning to do for the longest time. It is a thrummed muffler. So, you know, that style of thing where it's like a big tube and you stick your hands in the sides to keep them nice and tasty and warm. And if you don't know what thrumming it is, all of these colorful bits of wool in there are bits of roving that you sort of knit into your knitting. And the inside of it looks like this. This was a lot of fun to knit. I am afraid I can't remember what the pattern is that I followed to make this. I actually was going to make a pattern called the Thrummed Mufflet or something like that, but I realized that that one, the way that it planned out where to put these thrums, it was really ideally suited for if you have two colors of thrums that you're going to use. And because I had like this complete rainbow selection of bits of roving to use, it wouldn't really make sense and you wouldn't really get to see that kind of patterning. So instead I found a free pattern to use that was just a lot simpler and allowed me to just chuck in however many bits of roving that I had. And I have so many colors of these because once upon a time, one of my cousins asked, I can't remember if she asked me or I can't remember if we were just talking about something and I offered to make it for her, but I had made like a giant knitted blanket that was basically knit out of roving, and I have shared that somewhere in the long history of my doing these vlogs. But when I was planning to do that for her, I had thought, wouldn't it be cool if I made a bunch of these and sold them? So I had actually found a company through Alibaba, and they had sent over like, you know, a couple of cards that had all of these different bits of roving attached to show all of the different colors that they can do. And I let I let my cousin choose the color that she wanted. But then I hung onto those cards with all of these different color samples in it, and I'd always wanted to do something with it. So that is what this is. Oh, And the yarn that I did the actual knitting with is some of my Handspun. It is some of the first yarn I spun. It's some of the first yarn that I spun using a spinning wheel, because it's yarn that I made when I did the beginner's spinning course with the Hand Weavers and Spinners Guild of Victoria. I can't even remember how many years ago that was. Too many years ago, but it was in an undyed wool that I can't remember what kind of wool it was. Gee, I'm so unprepared with this vlog. Sorry, and thank you for putting up with it. But yes, when I did some dyeing, I have another project coming up that I have been meaning to work on for years, and I dyed some yarn black for that project, and because one of my dye pots still had some dye left in it, I chucked in this skein of undyed Handspun, which gave me this lovely grey, and I feel like that's really all I can say about this project. I will link the pattern that I did actually follow in the description below, as with everything else that I mention here. And I hope that all of my Ravelry projects have good notes on them. I do have it on my one day to-do list to go back and sort of update and put in more details in my projects where I can, but I have also made the effort to make sure that all of my Ravelry projects are visible publicly. So if you don't have a Ravelry account, then you should still be able to see them. I don't know. Let me know if that doesn't work, or yeah. Anyway, moving on. Since that one was made in my Handspun, we will move on to another project that was made in my Handspun. So this here, the pattern is called Lewsky, Lewsky, and it is by Kiyomi, Burgin, and Sachiko, Burgin, from the book. I think it's Moon and Turtle. It could be Turtle and Moon. I feel like I always get that wrong, whichever way I say it. But this is one of those projects that as soon as I saw it online, I knew that I wanted to make it. And the black yarn at the bottom is, I think, 2 different leftover yarn quantities that I had in my stash from other things that I have made in the past. And then this multicolored, well, green and brown yarn here is my Handspun. And it was yarn that I spun for the Tour de Fleece. I had to think for a moment. I was going to say Tour de Force, and no, it was the Tour de Fleece. I think it was it last year? It was either last year or the year before, and I spun it using my Jalgan drop spindle from the Lair of the Bearded Dragon. And then the yarn that's inside here is some leftovers that I've had of Cascade 220. I did make this inside portion longer than what the pattern called for because I was trying to use up all of that yarn, and I'll show you what it looks like. Hello. So the hood is actually a bit big, as you can see, and this thing pretty much covers my whole face. I can fold it down so that it's just covering that portion, which is what it's supposed to do. And it is so lovely and warm, but honestly, it's mostly too warm to wear a lot of the time. I did, hang on, I'm gonna take it off. I did bring it to the holiday that my partner and I went to earlier in the year, which was to Japan, and we did have one day, I think, where it snowed, and it was winter there, so it it was quite cold. So I did bring this, and my partner wore it sometimes and I wore it sometimes, and it was really great for that environment. But honestly, I don't know that I would ever wear it here. I'm just sorry, I paused because I just realized, hang on, there's a couple of holes here. Was I supposed to put a drawstring? There's a couple of like eyelet holes there. I think that I can put a drawstring in this if I wanted to. I don't know if I want to. I do think that I probably will make another one at some point. And I have a feeling this was only in one size, and I'm pretty sure it was using a worsted weight yarn. So I'm hoping that if I use a DK weight and just go for a bit of a tighter gauge, then it will just generally be smaller and will be a better size to fit me. Anyway, I really, really love this, but yeah, it seems to have grown a bit. So that's that one there. What else is a Kofo? Okay, so I have some socks that I did want to share with you. The first pair is this one here, which is, the pattern is the Pippi Longstocking socks. This one, I'm pretty sure, fluffy hair. This one, I'm pretty sure is a free pattern. And I think it's by Stitchcraft and Wizardry. And this yarn, I did these socks as part of the 11 Windmills Secret Stash Busting Sock Along, which ran for all of last year, I think. So at the end of 2024, the idea was that you wrapped up some sock yarns, and you could wrap them up with patterns if you wanted to, or just wrap up sock yarns. And then every month you would just like pick a random one and open it up, and that would be what you would knit some socks out of. I enjoyed doing that, but I only knit like 3 or 4 pairs instead of the 12 that I think a lot of people were aiming for, so 1 a month. Anyway, I really like this pattern. My problem though is that I haven't done a lot of stranded colorwork knitting, and I'm not that great at it really. And so I know that in the past I have knit it too tightly, so my floats at the back have been too tight and it's all kind of pulled in. And I was really, really aware of that, especially for knitting something at a small circumference. So I knit it quite loosely. I'll show you the inside of this sock because this is the first sock I knit. It looks fine, but I actually knit it too loosely, so it's quite baggy on my foot, which isn't ideal. But when I shared this in the chat that Lisa of 11 Windmills had for this knit along, someone, I can't remember who, suggested that I just do it in ribbing so that it will cinch in. And I couldn't be bothered ripping everything out, so I don't know if you can see, but the bottom half of this foot is ribbed, so at least the end of the foot and the toe section fits me better because I did it in ribbing. And then I knit this, when I knit the second sock, I just did the same thing so that they'd match a bit better. But yeah, I don't know if you can see. I feel like you can't really tell that one of them is much, much bigger than the other. Well, I feel like I can feel it when I wear it, that one of them is much bigger than the other. But I would like to get better at small circumference color work because I would love to knit these socks again. And I'd love to knit a pair that is like a true match instead of a, what do you call this? Like a fraternal pair or something like that. Anyway, not mirrored color wise. So yeah, they're the Pippi Longstocking socks. These were made out of, I want to say that the variegated yarn is a Schoppel-Wolle, couldn't tell you the color. I want to say it's Admiral Flakes yarn. Just check this, just check the show notes. And then the maroon color, Heirloom, something. Heirloom yarn, I want to say. Just check the description. Kofo socks number 1, done. The next pair of socks that I wanted to share with you, which were also part of that knit along, are these socks here. So they are shorty socks with a heel tab cuff. The cuff is its own separate little pattern recipe thing, which is free, and I will link below because I can't remember who designed it. And then these heels are actually the Sweet Tomato heel by Bordhi. I'd never done these socks before. I can't remember how I found them. It may be that YouTube suggested the video to me or something, but you can see that each sock, the heel is done, the way that I've managed the colors is slightly differently. So I knit this one first, and I did each wedge, because that's how the Sweet Tomato heel is done. There's 3 different short row wedges. I did each wedge in a different color so that it was clear to see sort of where, like just how each wedge sort of sits on my foot. So I found by doing that one exactly as Bordhi explains in her video, I found that there were some things that I wanted to change. So in this sock, I made those changes and it did end up fitting a lot better. And you can see here that, so I did one wedge, like after each wedge, there are a couple of rounds where you knit the full circumference of the sock and not just the heel portion. So for this one, I did the wedge in the contrast yarn and then the full rounds in the main yarn, which I like because then the top of your sock isn't interrupted as it kind of is here. But also, like with these particular colorways, it's not as easy to see the interruption of the contrast color because it's a variegated yarn that has no like really obvious pattern, and I chose a color that's somewhat similar to some of the colors that's in the variegated yarn. Anyway, I don't mind that with this pair and the other pair, each sock fits my foot slightly differently and they're not really a match, because these are kind of my experimental getting to know how I like my socks to fit type of socks. So that's those. And then more recently, I actually just cast these off within the last week, but these are socks that I cast on mid to end of April. I call them my birthday cast on socks because I cast them on my birthday this year. And I have again done the Sweet Tomato heel, but the main sock pattern is the Hermione's Everyday Sock, which I had never done before, and I love the texture of it. It's so simple and it just looks really nice. Let's see. Oh, the yarn is Bella Storia Jigsaw. I can't remember when or where I bought it, but I really, really like the micro striping of these socks. It's the first time I've done socks in a micro striping yarn and I want more. And you can see how, like you can, I find it really interesting to see, because of the micro striping, how, what am I trying to say? You can still sort of see like the wedges in just the way that those stripes are worked. Like you can see here, so I work these cuff down. So, you know, the green stripe at the start here is still only like 2 or 3 rows, but then the stripes get wider and shorter as you're knitting to the end of that wedge. So I should feel like I should explain the sweet tomato heel pattern recipe. The way that the original formula works is that your short rows are made, making your rows, the rows go from longer rows to shorter rows, and each wedge is done the same way. And when I did the previous pair, what I sort of realized when I first put the first sock on my foot, excuse me, is that it was creating like bubbles, like in odd spots. So instead, what I do now when I make these heels is I do the first wedge going from longer rows to shorter rows, but then I do the next 2 wedges going from shorter rows to longer rows. And with this micro striping, you can really see that here. So it starts with long rows and then they get shorter. And then the next one, it starts with short rows that gets longer. And then again, short rows that get longer. And yeah, I just really like that. And because I haven't used a contrast yarn, it has sort of interrupted the patterning a little bit. So here and here, like the stripes are a different thickness and there's no green in there just because of how it worked out. But I'm also really pleased with how well I've sort of managed to get these socks sort of matching. I intentionally haven't made them a perfect match. So this is the sock that I started with here, and you can see that the colorful stripes go from green, turquoise, dark blue, and then when I knit the second sock, I knit from the other end of the ball, so it went green, dark blue, turquoise. And usually I like to knit my socks magic loop, but for all these socks that I've started knitting for myself, I have been doing them one at a time on Addy Crazy Trios 2.25 mil because I'm still sort of trying to figure out what my magic numbers are for socks for myself. So, you know, I knit one, and then this one, for example, I realized I knit the foot just a little bit long. So for this one here, I knit the foot a few rows shorter, and it has resulted in a much better fit. Also, one of these socks has, I messed up the stitch counts somewhere in it. So I think for the first sock, I started with 72 stitches. And then at some point I realized that, or I remembered that I like a bit of a snugger fit. So I decreased to 68 stitches. And then when I worked the toe, I did a setup row getting it down to 64, another multiple of 8, so that I could work the decreases for a rounded toe properly. These are the first times I've knit rounded toe for myself, by the way. And usually I do sort of the more standard, is it the more standard, the more common way of doing socks where it's like a wedge toe. And I've heard people say that they really like how rounded toes fit. And I never understood that, because a rounded toe, it's round. It's like how, you know, the top of a beanie is done, which makes sense because your head is round, but your feet are flat. So to me, it never made sense. Like a wedge toe gives you like a flat, are these a wedge? It gives you like a flat foot, a flat toe. whereas this one is around. But I really do like how this one fits so much better. So, you know, try new things, try different things, even if you're not sure, because it may actually just work out for you. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. With the second sock, I forgot to decrease down to the 68 stitches. And then, so when I got to the toe, it was already a multiple of 8 stitches. So I just worked the rounded toe, but starting from 72 stitches instead of 64 stitches. So that's the main place that you can see the difference, because they end at a slightly different spot. Was there anything else that I wanted to say about this pattern? Oh yeah, I'm still working out, again, my ideal numbers for doing the sweet tomato heel as well. I really like this heel, so I do think it's one that I will continue to do, but probably my next pair of socks I will do a different kind of heel. I'll probably just follow what the pattern says, because I guess I've knit a few socks for myself now, but I'm still trying to learn, you know, what constructions I like the fit of and what, you know, suits me. But also I like doing different types of heels because it's fun to do all of these different types of heels, and you know, they're all pretty in their own way. They all serve their own specific purposes. Yeah, anyway, so the difference with these was that so you work first wedge, you work longer to shorter, and it's that number of stitches in the middle that you leave unworked that I'm still sort of tweaking and trying to figure out, like, what's the right number there for me. With the first sock, I thought that, oh, I wonder if I could get that to fit a little bit better by making, by doing fewer stitches there. But when I did that with the second sock, I actually find that it's a little bit pointy on my heel. So that's something that I know now. And yeah, like, I wouldn't have known without trying. Yes, anyway, next project, because I have talked about that long enough. Next kofos are these two here. So these are using the same pattern and the same yarn, obviously different colorways, but these are the ribbed Toque 120. I believe it's by a designer called Michelle Porter. And I have only just discovered these crazy Zauberball yarns. They've been around for a really long time, and I have just discovered them, and I am absolutely obsessed with them at the moment. I just love the non-repeating colors, and it's such like an adventure to see what's coming next. At least that's how I feel about them. I have knit these as gifts, and I have pretty much mostly followed the pattern. I did look at other projects on Ravelry before I made them though, and the main comments that other people had said were that the pattern makes the top of the hat quite pointy, so they make adjustments to the rate of decreases so that it's less of a pointy hat. So I did the same thing, and I knit these in exactly the same way. I'll show you how these look on. So you can wear it like that, or you can not fold the brim. Whoop. I think I just flipped that inside out, but I don't think it really matters. You can not fold the brim, and well, I mean, see how that doesn't quite work as well, because I don't think I'd actually tried this before, but oh my gosh, that stands up so much. And I have blocked these. Just doesn't want to flop down, flop. I don't know. You kind of have to work it, maybe. Maybe you just have to wear it with the brim folded. Anyway, I picked this pattern for these because I am making these as gifts for other people, some of whom are men. And this pattern is excellent because the ribbing is just so stretchy that it's only in one size. And for adults, that's all you need because one size fits all, because it's so stretchy. And I did get my partner to try these on as well, just to make sure, you know, oh, my hair, just to make sure they fit on a male head well, and they do. I probably could have knit them a little bit longer. I didn't think about how, because I was eliminating some of the rest rows in the decreases, that reduces the length of the hats overall. But yeah, I really love how these have turned out. If I make another batch of these, maybe I'd also go up a needle size just to try to get a little bit of that slouch happening. But I don't know, it could also be that once I have made this batch of gifts using that pattern, I may want to be done with this pattern at least for a while and try a different fingering weight beanie pattern. Or I may want to make socks out of this yarn. I have a lot of this Zauberball crazy yarn now because it's just so much fun and I love it. And I want to have a pair of these on my needles all the time. I just really enjoy them. So I have made another one of these in a grey Zauberball crazy yarn, and I did do the decreases of those separately. That particular gift has already been wrapped up, so I can't show you here now, but I can insert some photos to show you because I did the crown decreases a little bit differently with that one. People had commented that they thought, people on Ravelry had commented in their projects that the way that the decreases had been done in this pattern was a little bit odd. So they had done other things. So for that grey beanie, I did it so that instead of it sort of being like evenly decreased all the way around, you've got 4 sections that come together to make a plus sign at the top. And I do want to try another one as well where you do the thing where you divide your stitches into 8 and you just do a knit together at the end of every 8 so that it ends up like spiraling around. So that will be another of these hats in the future. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about these ones for now. Love the yarn, love the pattern. When all these gifts are done, I will think about making one for myself. Anyway, my last kofo is my favorite, and it's not even for me. It is one that I have talked about in the past on my vlogs, I believe, and it is for my best friend, and it is the Pink Fizz sweater by Andrea Mowry. Let's see if I can lean back enough to show you. It's so pretty. It's like such a pretty lace, and this is the first lace knitting that I have done that doesn't always give you a rest row in between each lace knitting row. So that made it like a little bit challenging, very engaging, really interesting to knit. But then of course you've still got these stockinette stitch panels to sort of like break it up for you and give you that little bit of a rest in between. This is knit bottom up in the round as much as possible, and then you pick up for the sleeves and knit down. I knit, I've got yarn in my mouth. Classic knitting vlog thing is to eat yarn. I knit this with 2 yarns held double, which is what the pattern called for, but I didn't, so the pattern calls for, I can't remember what the pattern calls for. I think it called for like a mohair silk and a wool, some kind of wool blend, I think. Anyway, I went for 1 yarn that is 100% cashmere. What is this? I have this bit of, can you see that thread sticking out? I feel like that's maybe a bit of silk. I feel like I shouldn't be yanking on it, but I kind of don't like it. I'll just snip it later. Stop playing with it now. Yes, sorry, where was I? One of the strands of yarn was a Knitting for Olive 100% cashmere. I think it was their compatible cashmere range. This has been blocked, but I haven't snipped all of the ends just in case, you know, I give it to my friend and something isn't quite right. But this finer strand at the top is the cashmere yarn, and then this thicker one here, which is still a fingering weight yarn, is Momonoki Rami Silk Natural, I think is the yarn, and it's a blend of wool, silk, and Rami fiber, which I had never worked with before. This combination is so deliciously soft, and honestly, like, this pattern knit up so incredibly fast. I'm pretty sure it's the fastest I have knit any adult jumper ever. I like to time myself in projects, and this one took, I think it's like 41.5 hours to knit, and I am sure that in the past, sweaters for an adult female take me like 60 hours. It doesn't hurt, of course, that usually I'm knitting like a medium or a large if I'm knitting something for myself. But for my bestie, I knit the smallest size that was available in the pattern. And also, actually, my gauge was a smidge tighter than the pattern called for. I think the pattern called for 21 stitches in 10 centimeters in stockinette stitch, and I think I was getting more like 22 stitches. But to my thinking, that kind of worked out anyway, because I had measured my friend and I had measured one of her favorite jumpers, and the size difference that I was going to get by knitting to that little bit of a tighter gauge was actually going to match the dimensions of her favorite jumper. So that worked out really well. So I only had to do minimal modifications to this, and that was mainly just, let's see, so my friend wanted, her ideal jumper was a little bit longer than what the pattern had put in the schematics, and she also likes quite fitted sleeves. So this sleeve just looks so skinny to me. But to achieve that, because this pattern is meant to be a little bit of an oversized fit, and it has like sleeves with positive ease, and to try to get something that's like possibly zero ease or just like a little bit of ease for my friend, not only did I have to knit the sleeves at a smaller circumference, but I also had to knit this section shorter than the pattern called for. Otherwise, you know, it would have been like a bigger opening. And then if I had started knitting the sleeves with at the smaller circumference to fit my friend, then this would have all like bunched up a little bit to like accommodate that. So because like I had done all of the math, but just to be absolutely safe, when I had come to the point where I started doing the shoulder shaping, I did put lifelines in the front and the back, and then I finished, you know, the whole body portion of the jumper, and then I got my friend to try it on, and she said it was a perfect fit, so that was excellent. And she hasn't tried it on yet with the sleeves, but I've left like all of my ends. They've been woven in, they just haven't been slipped, just in case I do need to do a little bit more fixing there. Anyway, I love this jumper. I think it is so beautiful. It was such a delight to knit, and I do think I would like to make one for myself eventually. I only have a million other jumpers in my queue, and there are only about half a dozen in my immediate, I really, really want that in my closet next to knit. So we shall see. But if I do knit one of these for myself, I would be interested in substituting in another lace pattern, because in the pattern, Andrew Mowry says that this was inspired by, I think, the beautifully intricate lace patterns in one of those really popular Japanese stitch dictionary books, which I have. I am forgetting the exact title and who the author of that is, but I have that book. So if I can find another panel of lace that is, you know, the same number of stitches across, then I think it would be cool for me and my bestie to have almost matching, not quite matching jumpers. So yeah, that is the pink fizz. That is the last COFO that I have to share with you. And so up next is what is currently on my needles. So handy dandy whips, I guess. The first one I want to show you is the One Love Shawl, which was a mystery knit along last year by Hohi Locatelli, and I haven't finished it yet. This is it here. Oh, I've got bits coming out. So you're not going to get a sense of it at all, but if you are on social media, I'm sure you would have seen versions of this. Which is the front? Does it have a front? I think this is the front. Anyway, it's a giant, is it a crescent? No, a giant triangular shawl that starts with a garter tab. You can see that my garter tab start is a little bit bubbly at the start here. I have seen people talk about various ways of doing this type of shawl start and not getting that bubbly, curvy, sort of bumpy start to it. But because this is the first time I have ever done this in a shawl, I thought I would just follow the pattern exactly. But as you can see, it is essentially just a series of, I forgot what the stitch was called for a second. It's garter stitch, right? Where you knit every row so that when you're looking at it, it's a row of knit, row of purl, row of knit, row of purl. That's garter stitch, right? I'm forgetting what this is called. Anyway, it is garter stitch. It's garter stitch, bit of lace, garter stitch, bit of lace, and it kind of just repeats. And by the time I had gotten around to, I think this is actually the front. By the time I had gotten around to the fourth clue, I wanted to do something different, something that wasn't just garter stitch lace, garter stitch lace. So I had a look in my stitch dictionaries, and I selected one stitch, which is actually from that same Japanese stitch dictionary that I mentioned just before and can't remember the name of. But I had selected this particular stitch because it combined the same lace pattern, but it had incorporated garter stitch into it. If that makes any sense, you can kind of see here, maybe. I don't know, I feel like it's really hard to see. Yeah, so how do I show you this? So I can't see what you can see. Can I just drape that on my head? I can kind of see through the holes. So this bit here, where the lace bit is kind of like a straight line, that's the pattern. That's the same lace that is throughout the rest of the shawl. But then up here where it starts, oh, okay, that didn't work. Up here where the lace starts going wavy, that is the different, that's the different stitch pattern that I have incorporated. And I'm kind of not sure about it at the moment because this finished months ago now, and I just sort of like, I fell behind. But I have since then, I've seen like other people's finished shawls who just followed the pattern exactly, and other people who did much simpler modifications to the end of the shawl just to do something different to it. And I really like how it looks, and I feel like what I have done is too complicated, but I do not want to rip all of this out. It's like that much knitting is my own modification to it. And I have also made it bigger, like I've kind of kept going because I still had yarn to go, and I wanted to like make it as big as possible. And I wanted to use up the whole skein of yarn. Oh, and I should mention that this yarn was, I think it was dyed by Ash and Eve, but it was for 1121 Windmills when she did her, was it her 40th birthday set that she did that was themed The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So this, I bought the sock set for that, and this was the main skein of yarn. So I did as many repeats as I thought I could do of this new lace pattern that I had subbed in. And then I thought that I had enough yarn left to do the bind off, which is absolutely ridiculous because that's all the yarn that I have left. That is nowhere near enough to do a bind off on, like, I mean, you can't see how long this is because it's on shorter needles, a shorter cable that can't stretch it out. But no way was that ever going to be enough. So I had thought to myself that, so this was a sock set. So this was the main skein, and it came with a contrast mini skein, which is a yellow, because this is meant to be the earth, and the contrast skein is babelfish. So it's like a yellowy, yellows, and mainly yellows and maybe some oranges in there too. So I thought, I'll do the bind off in the contrast color. But I haven't been able to because the place that we're renting at the moment is actually a furnished rental because we're only in here temporarily. So we haven't unpacked most of our boxes. And we knew this when we were packing up our place at the end of last year. Sorry, at the start of this year. So when I packed, I very intentionally packed the projects that I thought that I would want to work on while we are in this place. And I packed everything else away in other boxes and sealed it up. And they're the boxes that I don't want to open until we move again. But then, so the mini skein is in one of those boxes that I can't currently access. And I know, of course, like if I really wanted to, I could go and look for the box that says mini skeins on it, and I could open it up and pull it out. But I don't want to do that. I want to try to limit myself to working with what I have sort of left for myself, because I'm not even going to get through those few projects. Anyway, long story short, this will either stay unfinished until we move again, or I could just rip out another chunk of this so that I have enough to do the bind off. And I'm actually currently leaning towards that now because I think I will like this better all in one color than if I did a bind off in a contrast yellow color. Let me know what you think, if you think I should just wait for that mini skein though, because I do think, so this new stitch that I have, subbed in, it still has like lace, it still has lace garter, and I wanted to end on the garter, on the garter rows. So if I do rip out a few rows so that I can have enough yarn to do the bind off, I'd be ripping out like one repeat section of it, which is like this much. And I don't know if I can be bothered doing that and ripping out that much lace. So yeah, actually, let me know what you think. But the other reason actually that I do like this idea is because I've been inspired by, I'm watching a lot of like old vlogs at the moment, and there are a lot of people working on scrappy blankets in a lot of the old vlogs that I'm watching, and I really want to make my own, but I don't have a lot of scraps. So I feel like if I ripped like a good portion, well, it's not a good portion really, if I ripped a small section of this out, then I am more likely to have some leftovers of this that can then be scraps that I can use in a scrappy project one day. Hopefully one day soon, but I have so many projects in my queue, like I said before. Anyway, I haven't touched that in a long time because I have been mulling all of that over. All right, next up is this one here. I don't have much to show you on it, but it is another colorway of good old Crazy Zauberball. I do like with their labels how they show you, so they give you an indication of how it would knit up, because it's such an unpredictable colorway, and you may not be able to see all of the colors in the ball that you're going to get. So I like that they show you the sort of sequence there. But this is basically, I've just started another one of those ribbed Toque 120s, which is part of the same batch of gifts that I knit those other ones for. And as you can see, it is a big tangle, but I'm just loving already like the color changes that have happened in this smaller section. That's all I have to say about that one, a nice and short one there. Okay, and then the last project, which is one that I have just cast on this morning, in fact, is, do I have the magazine? Yes. So the pattern is from this making magazine, the Simple issue, and it's actually the pattern that's on the back cover, which is the Plover, which is a cardigan by Jacqueline C. Slack. I've heard some people say Plover. I don't know, like dialectically speaking, like in Australia, if there's a correct pronunciation and what the correct pronunciation is. I don't know what regions say Plover and what regions say Plover around the world. It doesn't matter. Anyway, this I am knitting as a gift as well, and there are the photos of it in the magazine, and it is a lovely cardigan in half brioche stitch, top down raglan shaping, and yeah, so I'm knitting this for someone's birthday coming up soon, and I am certain that she doesn't watch these videos, but just in case she does, I'm not going to say who she is, but I am knitting it in this yarn here, which is, what's the brand? What are you? Alpaca Yarns New Zealand in their sporty yarn. So the pattern calls for fingering weight yarn, but if you look at the project page on Ravelry, she links to a article blog post thing that she has written talking about how this pattern and another pattern that's like a sister pattern to this one, how they could easily be substituted with different weights of yarn. And she shows shows swatches in I think it's like a sport and a fingering as well, a sport and a DK, as well as the original fingering that the pattern is called for. So I picked this yarn here, which is a sport weight yarn, and I'm pretty sure the pattern calls for a yarn that's 100% wool, but I picked this one here, which is a 50% wool, 50% alpaca, partly because of the color. I think the recipient will like that color, but also partly just because I like that extra little bit of a halo that the alpaca gives. Hopefully it's not going to be too scratchy. Like, I hope that alpaca content isn't going to make it too scratchy, but because it is an outer layer garment, then less likely to be an issue, I hope. I do have 400 meters more yarn than what the pattern called for, because I'm hoping to make it longer than the pattern called for, but I don't actually think I'm going to get there because my gauge is different. My stitch gauge is spot on. I did have to go up quite a lot of needle sizes. I'm a tight knitter, which is something that I know, but the pattern calls for 4mm needles, and I have had to go up to 6.5mm needles, which feels ridiculous. Look how thick that is. It's like, well, no, that's an exaggeration. It's not as thick as my finger, but they're so thick. And I'm using like a thicker yarn. So I'd probably have to use like an 8mm needle if I was making these in fingering weight yarn. But anyway, my stitch gauge is spot on, which is 16 stitches, but in the pattern, the row gauge is 30 rows in 10 centimeters, and I'm getting 38 rows in 10 centimeters. So I feel like all of the extra yardage that I have is just going to be eaten up in working all of those extra rows. I'm actually worried that it's going to just end up being a cropped cardigan, but you can kind of see here, like it kind of looks like the sleeves are knit long, and then there's a cuff that cinches in so that you can like push that up your arm and give it the length that you want there. But I think that what I'm going to have to do is once once I start working the body, I think I will have to stop. I think I will knit the sleeves, and I think I'll knit one first, and I'll have to see how I go with the length of it. I might need to make it a bit shorter, but I want to get the sleeves right first and then just knit the body as long as I can, and hopefully it's okay. I don't know. I don't know that I'd be able to get any more of this yarn. I haven't really looked it up to see where else it would be available, but I bought everything that this particular store that I went to, I bought everything that they had left of this particular color. And of course, if I find this yarn from elsewhere, it's not necessarily going to be the same dye lot. So we shall see about that. Let me show you the swatches that I did. So this was the first swatch that I did, possibly in the 4mm that the pattern called for. And then I went up a size because my gauge wasn't right. And then this is my swatch in the 6.5. And I have a little bit of stockinette stitch here with eyelets in it, just to get a sense of how big the buttonholes are. This particular swatch is, it's not bound off properly at the end. anymore, because even though I got gauge on this one, I was thinking, oh, it's a bit like loose and like holy, and I wasn't sure I loved that. So even though I got gauge, I tried it on the 6mm needles, so just one size down, to see if I liked that better. And for a good while, I thought that I would just knit it with the 6mm needle, because it's quite an oversized cardigan. So if I knit it at just a little bit of a tighter gauge, 17 stitches instead of 16 stitches in 10 centimeters, then it's just going to be a little bit less oversized, which I think would be totally fine. But when I cast on this morning, I was sort of just looking at the pattern again, looking at notes, and considering this was originally meant to be a fingering weight yarn at this gauge, like it's meant to be like a really airy, drapey, like loosely knit garment. So I thought, you know what, I really should just like stick as close to the pattern as I can. So I have cast on using the 6.5mm needles, and I've seen like some people's comments talking about how like half brioche stitch is it needs like a little bit of concentration. And sure, it's not as like mindless as stockinette or even just like normal ribbing, but I flew through these swatches. It just like, I don't know, it just made sense for my brain and my hands. Like I could just like go. So that was really fun. But having said that, because I did those swatches a little while ago, when I started knitting this morning, I actually completely stuffed up already by the second row, because I think I'd gotten a little bit overconfident with it, because knitting the swatches just felt so smooth for me. So I kind of just didn't look at the pattern properly again, assumed I remembered how to knit half brioche stitch, and then on the rows where I was meant to be doing some purl stitches, I was knitting them instead. Overconfidence. Anyway, that's all I have done so far. Not much at all, but I am using these fun stitches from 11 Windmills' Advent last year. And the middle stitches I have, I'm using these beautiful butterflies, matching butterflies, and one has an R and one has an L for left and right. But I feel like I'm also confusing myself a little bit with that, because it's supposed to help me understand like which is the right side and which is the wrong side. But then also it's like I have to keep reminding myself, oh, the R is for the right shoulder, not the right side facing me when I'm knitting the right side, because that's a little bit backwards, you know, because the garment's facing you. So it's like, anyway, it doesn't really matter. I don't really need to know which one's right and which one's left, at least, you know, not at this stage. Yeah. The plover is a bird, so I also had to use this bird, even though it's not a plover. And I don't know, I just picked some other stitch markers I liked from that set. This one here, which is the only one that is in wood instead of acrylic, is my beginning of the right side one. So even though they're all from the Rainforest Advent set, that one, and they're all different, this one is even more different, so that just helps me know where I am with that. All right, and I think, oh no, that is not all that I have to share. I thought that was all that I had, but I did also want to share some other things with you. So I want to share a couple of things that I bought when I went to an op shop yesterday. I have more things that I have purchased, especially from my holiday earlier this year, but when we came home, I also packed like a lot of that stuff away, because it was things that I was like, I don't need them while I'm here in this house. They can wait until we're in the next house. So I have packed a lot of stuff away, and I didn't want to like go rummaging and unpack them now. So I'll have more acquisitions to show you in the future. But also I do want to move to what in my head I kind of call the Yarniacs model of sharing yarn, which is instead of showing you all of my like yarn acquisitions as I get them, I will just share my yarns with you as I actually work with them. So that's that. There are a couple of books and other bits that I would have liked to share with you, but like I said, they're packed away. So all I have to share at the moment is a couple of my op shop things from yesterday. One is this beautiful leaf bangle bracelet thing here that I got. So it hinges at the back, and while it doesn't fall off my hand, it does feel like a little bit big for my wrist. Like with it being perfectly, like fully closed, I can still slide my hand completely in and out of it. But I was also thinking that it would be absolutely beautiful. I wish I had a shawl here that I could show. Oh, you know what? Let me do this. Pretend this is a shawl. I was thinking like it would be a cute like shawl closing device-a-majig thing, you know, where you kind of like do that, where you hold closed a scarf or a shawl and it's like a nice little clasp. So that's that. That cost me 50 cents. It's so pretty. I think it's so pretty. I mean, the hinge is a little bit, I mean, it works fine. I think it's really nice. So that's that. And then the only other one that I wanted to share with you is actually not knitting related. And that is this book here, Storybook Favorites in Cross Stitch. I have been itching to get back to cross stitch, I can tell you. And I have in the boxes that I can access while we're living here, I do have one big cross stitch project that I'm itching to start. But I saw this and I couldn't resist it as well because it's so cute, and it's like a little bit of a walk down memory lane because it has so many characters that I loved in my childhood. There's like Babar there, Spot, Paddington, and there's like other ones in here too that I like. Oh look, there's like Rupert, and there's I know that there's Peter Pan in here. Look, there's like a farm alphabet. I think it's just got such cute, adorable little patterns. And even though like, oh, look, there's like Blinky Bill. Oh, you know, it would be amazing if this had, I bet it doesn't, but it would be so cool if this also had the magic pumpkin. But the magic pumpkin wasn't like a child's storybook. It was like a grown-up book. Oh, now I want a magic pumpkin cross stitch pattern. But let's see. So it's got Blinky Bill, Peter Rabbit, Babar, Spot, Miffy, Paddington, Duck. I don't know who Duck is. Peter Pan, Angelina. I don't know who that is. Apple Tree Farm, which is the alphabet, and Rupert. And I don't know if I will ever knit these, but if I do, they will totally be for myself. I'm an adult, but this is my childhood, so I don't care. It's for me. Yeah, I'm really, really pleased with that. I have no idea how much this cost actually, because it didn't have a label on it, but this, the bracelet, and like a decent amount of some denim fabric was $6.50, which I thought was just ridiculously cheap. Super happy with that. If you've been following me on Instagram, you will see as well that I have been doing some like slow stitch projects. I've been following along with, so K3N Cloth Tales is one of my favorite YouTube channels now. And she's actually making me really enjoy and appreciate hand stitching, or at least I like slow stitch, and I can sew. I'm not particularly good at it. I get impatient with it. There's sewing projects that I want to do, but I always put it on the back burner because I don't I don't love it as much as a lot of other crafts. And I'm finding that I really enjoy not only watching Catherine, K3N, but like when I watch her, she makes me want to be a slow stitcher. I think I just like making things with my hands. Well, I mean, I know I like making things with my hands. I'm here, I'm a knitter, I'm sharing all of my knitting with you. But I much enjoy like sewing by hand so much more than I do sewing on a sewing machine. I would love to make some hand sewn, hand stitched quilts. Is that likely? Probably not. I bought a whole bunch of charm packs on sale recently, and in my head I have this dream of like hand stitching some disappearing 4 patches out of them and making a big giant quilt. But honestly, I probably will end up doing it on a sewing machine. Anyway, I don't know where I started with this story. Oh yeah, I've been doing a bit of stitching following along with K3N's A to Z of Slow Stitch. I am still behind on that. I was keeping up with it and then I went on holiday and I fell behind and I haven't caught up again. Partly because I signed up to Domestika recently. I'm just doing the trial month and I don't think I will continue my membership with them because I'm not really finding that much on there that's really for me, like the kind of things that I really want to be exploring. I'm doing a few like hand lettering and doodling courses, but the reason that I had signed up was because I wanted to do a Sachiko course by, oh my God, I'm forgetting his name. Oh, I feel really bad. Is it Atsushi of Upcycle Stitches / Sachiko Story? I think his name is Atsushi. Anyway, he is someone that I found because of K3N and I really enjoyed his course. And I'm still working on the Sachiko pieces that I started following along with his classes. But yeah, I think, what was the point of that? I keep losing track of what I was saying. Yes, so while I was on this free trial of Domestika, I stopped doing the K3N's stitch along thing. So I do need / want to get back to doing those. I didn't bring all of the ones that I had done so far because if you really want to see them, then check out my Instagram, which is Bobbie.Olan. And yeah, I've shared all the ones that I have done so far there, and my Domestika free trial runs out in a week, so I will be getting back to that project soon. I feel like there was something else that I wanted to say. Oh, yeah, just like another little tidbit about living here is that it's really interesting to see how the environment here has sort of changed my crafting habits. I used to just like knit as much as I possibly could, and then like even at night when it gets dark, I used to have like my armchair with a floor lamp, which was like my crafting spot, so I would just keep crafting. But the area that we're in at the moment, it gets really dark because there's barely any street lamps, which is wonderful. We both absolutely love it. It just feels like natural and nice. But because it's winter, or no, it's not winter, it just feels like winter. Because it's autumn here and it gets dark quite early, and I don't have like a good chair and lamp set up now for stitching. I do have one of those neck lights, but honestly, I don't love using it because it never wants to like stay on my shoulders. It'll always like start swinging around to one side or the other, or it'll start like slipping down my back and start pointing up, and I'll just have to keep adjusting it, and it's not the most comfortable, and I always have neck issues, so I feel like I don't want to add anything else to my neck and my shoulders. Anyway, long story short, I find that when it starts getting really dark, I don't want to keep knitting, which has actually been like kind of great for my multi-craftiness, because that has given me that time to dedicate to doing other things. So that's when I've been watching Domestica courses and doing stitching and doing like a little bit of spinning. And I definitely do want to get back to weaving, because within the last year or so, I have had some comments on the very, very few weaving videos that I have done. And I have signed up to a little weaving course at the Hand Weavers and Spinners Guild in July, just like a little one-day thing. And I will need to wind on a warp and prep for that, which I do want to film and share for those of you who have commented on my weaving videos. Anyway, the point of that was just to say it's been really interesting and nice to see how like a different environment has changed my crafting habits and has allowed like more space for other crafts. And I've been enjoying that. I think that was all that I had to say about that. I do want to finish up with Heartful of Craft, which is where I share something that I am grateful for, usually to do with crafting, but not always. This time it is. And that is that I went to my very first in-person knit night in the last week. And that was at the store kind of local to here, which is Little Woolly Makes. And I knew before we moved here that that was something that I wanted to do, but we've been here for a couple of months at least now, and I only just worked up the nerve. That makes it sound like something really bad and scary. Oh, I had to work up the nerve to go to knit night. But like I said at the start of this video, I am really quite like introverted and shy. So I did have to work up a bit of courage to go and book and do that. And I think like it was also because I'm going on my own. I'm not going with a friend, so I won't know anyone. So that's quite nerve-wracking. And I booked, and even like on the night, it was like a horrendously rainy and windy night, and I was driving like super slow along the roads, and I nearly like talked myself out of going just by saying, oh, the weather is just too atrocious. It doesn't feel safe driving. I bet no one will be there because the weather is so bad. And like all those thoughts running through my head, you know, like who am I going to talk to? Like, and then I got there, and it was just nice. I think there were like 15 people there in the end. And while like most of everyone did know other people there, the woman sitting next to me, she said that she'd only been going for about 6 months. It's the first live in-person knitting group that she'd ever done too. And she went on her own as well. She didn't go in knowing anyone. And she did say that like it's not always the same people every time, like it's not a consistent group of people that always go, which makes it a little bit hard to get to know some people, but you do get to know some of the people who go. And you know, everyone was friendly. Julie, who runs the store, was like really super friendly and nice, and you know, greeted me when I came in and like made an effort to like talk to me and ask about my project. And I'm really, really glad that I went, because it was just really nice to like be in a room with other people who obviously share my love for this craft that we do. So if you haven't gone to an in-person knitting group, and there is one that you're aware of that you would like to go to, that you're a bit unsure about going to, I really, really encourage you to go, because I really enjoyed my time there, and I really want to make it a regular thing that I do. It does, she only runs it fortnightly, which I guess is kind of good. It's a bit less like pressure and time commitment to not have to do it like every week. But honestly, if she did it every week, I probably would still try to go every week because I just enjoyed myself. And I'm sure the next time I go, I'm not going to remember anyone's names because I'm terrible with names, but I want to keep going because it was just really nice. So that is my heartful of craft. That's pretty much all that I have to share with you. Nice long episode. If you like long episodes, I hope you do. I love watching long videos from other people. I love watching any length of videos for other people, but the long ones I particularly enjoy because it feels a bit more like, you know, you're spending time with whoever it may be. And it's like it feels a little bit less episodic, but sometimes I also really like the shorter ones. It's just like a nice little like window, a nice little like snippet into what people are doing. I just like all of them. Anyway, where was I going with that story? Yes, thank you so much for still being here. If you are still here at the end of this long episode, I really, really appreciate you giving me a chance. I am also kind of amazed that you're here because that means you found me. And I know because I have been posting so infrequently and inconsistently that the YouTube algorithm probably just doesn't put me out there at all. So thank you for finding me and for sticking around. I really hope to get back into a regular schedule. I would love to do weekly videos, but I am going to aim for at least doing fortnightly, at least to get started. So we'll see how that goes. So hopefully I will see you in another fortnight, and looking forward to catching up with you then. And yeah, enjoy your crafting. That always feels so awkward.